Welcome to FXpert Trading, where I use time cycles and median lines along with some other technical analysis to identify potential trade setups in the S&P and the US markets, as well as in FX pairs. We're currently looking at the USDCAD on the 3-hour time frame with the FLD indicator that you see here in pink. The FLD is currently set to 8. In my last update, I discussed the USDCAD briefly and that I did not like the rapid sell-off in what I believe to be early in its current cycle. The current cycle that you can now see here in orange, which is roughly 11.5 or 12 days. I have reconsidered that analysis, considering this prior orange cycle extended. Really, this could be the trough over here. This could be the trough. This could actually be the trough back here, and it was a short cycle, in which case we would be late. But ultimately, what I decided was to look at both of these cycles back to back, and we would pretty much be right on time for the end of this cycle, the beginning of a new cycle. These are just averages. So sometimes the cycles come in early, sometimes they come in late, sometimes they can be difficult to decipher when they come in at all, especially in chop like this. But one thing I do like to do, and I did not do it during the prior video, was if there is an uncertain trough like this, sometimes I'll just leave it. I won't identify a specific trough. In the prior video, I had it here. Another thing I like to do sometimes is just put it, even though there's no trough here, just put it back to back with the prior cycle, because we're just looking at averages. So on average, the next cycle bottom should come in somewhere around here. Again, could still come in early, could still come in late. But what I didn't like about this originally was when I had the trough here and the next cycle, it looked like we were selling off pretty hard a little early in this cycle. But we bounced out with some pretty good strength. And so once I gave this some consideration and we got clear price action on the 3-hour chart showing strength and a good close above the 8 FLD, I decided to go long here. As I've mentioned in my prior videos, I'm going to take half at 2-to-1. The other half, I'm actually going to leave for this longer term median line set. And this will come in at about 3.84 to 1. And this one is 2.05 to 1. Another way you could look for an entry on a new cycle is using shorter cycles. This is roughly a daily cycle. And you can see I've added 2 different median line sets here. And as I've mentioned in the prior videos, the blue median line set you see here is a modified shift. I usually use that for longer cycles, or if I'm using it over a couple or several of the same particular cycle I'm analyzing. In this case, it's the orange cycle, and I'm looking at this as potentially being the 3rd, and I've started this 2 cycles back, high, low. Normally what I would like to do is go 1 cycle back. I'm going to take this off for a moment. Normally what I'd like to do is go 1 cycle trough back and use a standard median line set. And I know you're looking at that right now and saying, all right, well, that's not very helpful if you're using the cross above the FLD on the 3-hour. That doesn't leave you a lot of room to the upside. That's not a good risk to reward. Well, what you could use that for, or what you could use the modified shift for, either one of these. I don't know which one will work, or if either of them will work, or if it will even provide you an entry. But what you could do is go down a time frame or so. I'm just going to go to the 1 hour. I'm going to take the FLD off. You'll see I have this shorter term time frame here. You could look for a pullback and a retest of one of these around this, or maybe even the next cycle trough for these shorter terms time frames. You don't always get those, but you could look for that. You could look for a pullback to one of these And then you can use that as an entry point where you could get a much better risk to reward. This is just hypothetical, but let's say it retested here. And let's say, I'm not going to go over the momentum shift conditions for these shorter term cycles in this video. I don't use the FLD to identify the momentum reversal on the shorter time frames. But hypothetically, if you got the bounce here, you entered somewhere up here, you put the stop somewhere below, you get something like 24, 25, something along those lines. And then this is that median line set moving up. So you could still probably want to take half off at 2-to-1, but then you could set the rest at, this case, in about 3-to-1. Or what I would do in a case like this, which I don't think you're going to get that entry. It's bounced pretty far pretty quickly. But this is one where I mentioned in the last video, sometimes I will take 3 or 4 different profit targets and split up the position that way, where maybe you take half off at 2-to-1, a quarter off at 2-to-1, quarter off at this median line, which would be 3-to-1. You could target the upper warning line and then also this median line. And so you might have something like 4 targets there. Really, I'd probably do 3. Again, this is a hypothetical scenario. I've actually already entered this position, so I'm not going to be looking for this. But the 3 you'd probably go for are 2-to-1, this particular median line set, and then this median line here. When you do that, you can find some excellent risk to reward opportunities there. But as I said, you don't always get this retest down here, which is why now I typically just go for the longer term swings, and I like these longer term setups, especially because part of the reason why I like to trade like this is I don't like to sit in front of my computer all the time. I generally only take day trades now if, or these shorter term setups, if I just happen to be at my computer at the right time. I don't sit and wait for those opportunities. Okay, I wanted to give you that quick update on USDCAD because it differed from the analysis I provided in the weekend video. And I also want to talk about EURUSD. I had mentioned in the weekend video I'd potentially be looking for a short. I also don't typically like to short anymore. I still do, but it's easier to identify troughs than it is peaks. Okay, so I'm back on the 3-hour chart. I still have that 8 FLD on there, and I'm going to turn on the drawings. So I know this looks like a lot. I'm still trading the orange cycles here. And what's noteworthy here is we are moving towards the end of this orange cycle, as well as towards a longer term cycle I have down here in blue. And we are continuing to put in low, high. We've broken that low. We should continue to move lower for the remainder of this blue cycle. So I do want to look for short opportunities here. This median line set, it's a modified shift. It did break above. We're going to look at this on a lower time frame as well, and we'll see that it did clearly break above, but it has broken below. And then as we move further down, you're going to see we started to put in some higher highs and higher lows, but then we've since broken that, and so I've decided to go short. Not only because of that lower time frame trend shift, but because we did also break back below the 8 FLD on the 3-hour chart. So we have that. That's one check. The next check is, well, we're already kind of late in this orange cycle. The other check being, as I mentioned, we're late in the blue cycle. All right, let's go down to the hourly chart for a moment. I'm going to take the FLD off. On the hourly chart, it looks like we've respected this median line set pretty well. As we saw on the 3-hour chart, it did not look that way. And we'll go to the 15-minute chart in a minute. It also looks as if we broke above, but then we came back below. But what's important here is that it's showing approximate resistance at the very least. So when I'm going short or when I'm going long, if I'm going long, I want to see lower cycles, putting in higher lows. To go short, you want to see lower cycles put in lower lows. This is an aggressive entry because these lower cycles, this is a higher low, this is a higher low. It's difficult to determine where the low is here because it is Tuesday. And so here, we're going to go to the 15-minute chart. I'm going to shift this over, but this cycle is going to show as beginning on Friday. When we have a shorter term cycle like this, which goes over the weekend, this is roughly a 24-hour cycle. So you can't put this on Friday and then say the trough came in on Monday, because that's far more than 24 hours. So what you have to do is take your measurement tool out, know how long this is, it's roughly 24 hours, and then we're going to go to when Monday opened, and we're just going to take a measurement. Whoops. We want to see somewhere within the first 24 hours, roughly, could go longer than that, we should see some type of bottom. Now, we don't know. This could be it. It's very possible this is it. I believe it's right here. There are a couple of reasons for that. We can see, we put in a high, then we put in a low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So we clearly had a change of momentum during this cycle from moving up to moving down. Then all of a sudden, we don't make a higher high, but we do put in a higher low. And then we do just barely take out this high. So we've got a lower high, lower low. That should indicate some type of trough here, some type of bottom. If that's the case, this cycle would go here. And now we are roughly halfway through the cycle, and we've already taken out the low, which means this should be a negative cycle. And if that's the case, and this should be a negative cycle, the next one should also be negative as we move into the trough for this orange cycle. And if that's the case, it's possible that we come back down to this median line. This would be quite the drop. We might not get there. For these shorter term trades, you want something like this, where I'm looking for over 3-to-1 and then over 5-to-1, because they're a little less consistent. So you want a greater risk to reward, and I'll manage these more actively than I will the longer term swings as well, just because they're a little less consistent. They can be a little more volatile. So I want to move my stops up a bit more aggressively. But if during this cycle we do return to this median line and this is fulfilled, then I'll leave this other half on, looking to see how far down we can go during this longer term cycle. Because if you do catch a piece like this, and maybe during the next cycle we get down here, rather than take profit, I'll probably just move my stops down, because you never know how far this can run. I do have this longer term median set on here, and it's possible this could come all the way down here. It's not likely, but it is possible. So I would like to, as long as this can be successful during this cycle, I'll take the target off of this, and instead I'll just continue to move up or move down the cycles based on the orange cycles and let it run as far as possible. Sometimes that means it ends up getting taken out at break even. Sometimes it ends up being a small profit, but on occasion you do get something massive where you can get a big run like this. Again, unlikely, but possible. And again, I want to do that because shorting and also the day trades for this type of system, they are less consistent. So when they do work, you really want to give them some space to work and maximize the return on those trades. But I'm actually going to quickly discuss EURJPY. It still has not hit my target. However, I'm going to go back to the 3-hour chart. I'm going to put the 8 FLD on, and I'm going to talk about the cycle coming up. I had mentioned in the last video that I would not add more to this. There is a scenario where I might. If we do get some good clear price action below the 8 FLD on the 3-hour chart, which we currently have some price action below, but if it continues and we get some clear movement below into this trough, if we can recross the 8 FLD in a way that will allow me to move this stop up to break even or better, then I will add another position on looking for 2 to 1 and or this profit target here. If I do add another position here, this position's target will remain the same. And then the new position I'll look for a fresh 2 to 1 and or the median line up here. Perhaps I'll do another update on this later in the week, as well as the S&P. So if you like the information I provide in this video, if you want to learn more about cycle analysis and median lines, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.